I all of a sudden developed what they thought was rheumatoid arthritis. And then they put me on cortisone. I gained weight so quickly. I developed type 2 diabetes. I developed NASH. I weighed over 300 pounds. And what I didn't know was that OxyContin is synthetic heroin. If you continue like this, you're going to be dead in 3 years. Who can live without carbs? Like impossible.
Right, welcome one and all, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, super intelligent shades of the colour sky blue, pink, whatever you might be. You're all welcome here. Today, my very special guest is Roxana. She's going to tell us her story of her introduction to this crazy community that we're all in, and then she's got some questions for me from her people. So, off you go. Tell us all about it.
So my journey started probably in my mid-20s when I got sick. So that was the bad part of the journey. I all of a sudden developed what they thought was rheumatoid arthritis, and all the joints swell. I was hardly mobile. I was in so much pain. And they wanted to put me in methotrexate. And I said, oh, I want children. Like, can we hold off on that? And then they put me on cortisone, and it was a good dose. And I took it for about 10 years or so. So I gained weight so quickly. I didn't even get used to my shape. I would bump into things because I was wider than I thought. You know, you have a sense of how wide you are, where you fit, and I didn't. And so that wasn't a good scenario. Then I moved to Canada, and then I got pregnant, and then I had 3 boys. I love those boys. They're great. And I developed type 2 diabetes. And then they put me, after the pregnancies, they put me on Imuran. And Imuran is an immune suppressant, and you have to take a certain dose. You get a high initial dose, and they didn't take me off that high initial dose. So on that Imuran, I was for 15 years. It shot my liver, basically. I developed NASH, and it was just an all-over bad situation. I was obese. I weighed over 300 pounds. I was in pain. I was put then for the pain on OxyContin. And what I didn't know was that OxyContin is synthetic heroin. So I did feel like a junkie. I had a dose in the morning and a dose at night. And then in between, I went through this roller coaster of cravings and withdrawal, and it was awful. And then they upped my dose to 3 times a day, but not just like spreading it out. I got another dose, like an additional dose. And I still went through this roller coaster. And I think that really also messed with my mind. So I was overweight. No, I was morbidly obese, like stage 3. I was unhappy. I couldn't really enjoy life. The only joy I had in my life was watching my kids, and they're great kids. So that was all worth it. But at one point I thought, if you continue like this, you're going to be dead in 3 years. And that point was when I had high glucose levels. So in Canada, we do millimole. It was in the high 20s for a week straight. That would be comparable to the high 400s. 4 weeks straight, like there was no coming down. I was just in a daze. And my middle son is type 1 diabetic. So he has insulin. And I woke him up in the middle of the night and said, Chris, I need some insulin. I need a syringe. And he gave me a vial, he gave me the syringe, and then I calculated in my weary head. And I thought, okay, it's got to be this much. I drew up the units and I injected them. And then I thought, oh, if this was too much, like this can be bad. So I called up a friend, and that was in the middle of the night for me. He was on his morning commute in Germany, and he said, no, I think you're about right. Don't go to sleep. Check your blood sugar every half hour or so and watch Dr. Stephen Finney. And that was the turnaround for me. So knowing I was going to die if I continued, and then being presented with a way that I could actually turn my life around. And I did that.
Awesome. So where are things at now? How are things settled. Tell us all about, what's the diet now? What other things you're doing other than diet? Give us the package.
Yeah, so I started with keto and what I knew about keto. So I knew it was no sugar, no grains. It was under 20 grams net carbs. And I had a friend who had also done it. Well, I knew that she had done it, but at that time I said, like, who can live without carbs? Like, impossible. And she knew all the stores where to go to, where to buy the treats and all that. So it was kind of like a dirty keto. It was still with seed oils. It was still with eating all the time. But still, I did drop a lot of weight. And my sugars went down really quickly. So my A1C went from 8.5 to 5.2. But I couldn't get off insulin. And then I found Dr. Fung, and I started intermittent fasting. And then I learned about the vegetable oils or the seed oils, and I left those out. And I was on 50 units still at that time. That was about 7 months in. And then within 2 weeks of starting intermittent fasting, I was off insulin. So that was pretty amazing. And I've been off since. That's about 4 or 5 years ago. So basically, my eye doctor said, so you're not diabetic anymore. You're not on medication. Your A1C is fine. It's now around 5.2. I'm going to take that off your chart. And for her, that meant I didn't have to go there every year to have my eyes checked. The NASH that I had developed is also no longer there. My liver is no longer inflamed. It's no longer fatty. It's normal. I do feel tons better. Like, I'm more energetic, and I'm very vocal about what's going on. Like, when you look at the diabetes associations, like the type of advice they give, it just drives me nuts. It's also the advice they gave my son when he was diagnosed. They told him, oh, he needs carbs to grow, and he needs carbs for brain development, and he will resent me if I don't give him cake. I know. It's so frustrating. And he believed that. So as far as my health goes, I'm still struggling, majorly struggling with thyroiditis. So I am Hashimoto, and it's really hard to tune that in. Like to if you can give me tips for that, would be awesome. For the thyroid, the antibodies, one of the antibodies was above 2,000. They don't even measure above that, and now it's around 200, but still way, way high. And inflammatory arthritis. So when I was misdiagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, the rheumatologist that I saw last said, if you have rheumatoid arthritis, you wouldn't be able to, like your hands would be deformed, and they're not. So he said it's some other form. He doesn't know. I don't know. I just go through these flares. So the newest thing I'm doing now is, as of today, I'm on the Lion diet. Okay. Strict, no exceptions, no coffee, no eggs, no butter. It's just beef, salt, and water. But I'm going to do this for 3 months at least and see if I can knock it down. Okay,
cool. All right. I have an approach that I use with people who have all sorts of either specific or non-specific inflammatory immune dysfunction. And it's a 5-point program. And you'll probably find a video on my channel where I'm talking about 5 health hacks and doing that on the thumbnail. You can have a look at that. There you go. That's the 5 things like that. I think they are the 5 most important things a person can do in terms of reducing any chronic systemic inflammatory overburden and or inappropriate activation of various immune dysfunctions, basically. So folks that are interested in that should go and watch that video, I would suggest. There's about 4 or 5 different videos on my channel where I talk about these hacks, either 4 or 5 of them, depending on how long the video is. I'd go and have a look at one of those. There's one where I'm talking to Sean Patterson at DC. There's another one where I'm talking to Anthony Chafee about the same sort of things. There's one where I'm talking to my dear partner, Pim, and there's a few others. You'll find them. Easy.
I did hear Anthony Sheffy talk about when you're a carnivore or lion diet for that matter.
Just waiting for you to come back. You've frozen up.
Generator nicht an.
There we go.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh no.
Yep.
I don't. Wait a second. Okay. So our power just went out.
Okay.
So I'm now. I have no light.
Right.
Awesome.
Oh, power happens. Power sometimes doesn't happen. We can battle on. It's all good. It's life.
Yeah, but okay. I mean, so I'm getting the light now from my screen. That's it.
Yep. I can see you. That's the main thing. So
okay, just a second. Can you get the power on? I don't know what's wrong. Nee, das Licht ist andere.
ta-da.
Yeah. All right. It seems to be like a okay, this is the first time this happened. One of the breakers is through. Okay, let's start. Let's just go on.
Just carry on. That's fine. So, with all of that in mind, power cuts aside, you're still here. That's the main thing. Let's go through the questions, I guess, that your folks wanted me to have a crack at.
All right. So I'm going to start with insulin resistance. So the name of my group is insulin resistance. Mm-hmm. And I learned at Nutrition Network, I learned at Primal Health Institute. Everyone in the literature uses that term. And then you said, there's no such thing as insulin resistance. It's just a construct. And it kind of, I find it still, if you think about it, that there's too much insulin. So it's hyperinsulinemia. I know that. But there's too much insulin, so the cells resist it. Mm-hmm. Isn't that a good construct? Isn't that a construct that you can use?
Let's make a slight correction. I said the first thing, the second thing you said, i.e. that insulin resistance, as it is explained to us, is a construct. Mm-hmm. I did not say there is no such thing as insulin resistance.
Oh, okay.
What I'm getting at is this. We are told that there is this bugbear. We are told that there is this nasty lurking called insulin resistance that we all need to avoid. And that insulin resistance is the underpinning cause of diabetes and a whole bunch of other problems. Mm. That is not so. The thing that is referred to as, look, light, let there be light in the light. Yeah. The thing that is referred to generally as insulin resistance is sold to you as a bill of goods. It's sold to you as a construct, as an idea, as a pathology, as a disease process. You're insulin resistant. That's a bad thing.
A diagnosis.
Yeah. It's a construct because it's not something that can be measured. It's a thing that we put a value to based on adding up the values of a bunch of things we actually can measure, like your blood glucose over time and your blood insulin over time and the interaction between those two, from which a decision is made that at the time that the test is being done, the insulin may not be as effective as we might expect it to be, all else being equal. Ergo, that's the problem. That's what's causing your diabetes. That's the thing we need to address, your insulin resistance. No. The cause of diabetes is elevated blood glucose, period. End of discussion. Full stop.
For any kind of diabetes, for that matter.
If you like. At the end of the day, your body's response to insulin is what it ought to be. It is programmed in. Your body responds differentially at different times depending on the circumstances in which you place your body. There are times when your cells absolutely should not take glucose up from the blood because that would damage those cells. Ergo, the doors are locked from the inside and the sacrificial lambs become the red blood cells and the cells, the endothelial cells lining the vascular tree. That's the natural design. Anytime your blood sugar gets way too high, your cells lock the doors, protect themselves, and those are the sacrificial lambs. Then your body replaces those cells fairly rapidly because it's supposed to be an incredibly rare thing for you to have high blood sugar. There is no biological design that would cause this to occur in a natural life. We have to do this by feeding ourselves contraindicated and unnaturally large doses of carbohydrates and sugars. That's the thing that's the problem. That's the disease. Your cells are protecting themselves with this so-called insulin resistance. It is not pathological. Your body is doing what it should. It's protecting itself. I hope that's a good clarification on what it is.
All right. So you're saying insulin resistance is never pathological?
If insulin resistance continues ongoingly, chronically, there can be issues associated with that.
Symptoms.
But the cause, yes, the cause is still glucose and other carbohydrates. So when we're saying we need to deal with this insulin resistance, you can think of it as dealing with the insulin resistance, if you like. What we are not trying to do is lower your blood sugar at all costs by forcing your cells, for example, to take up sugar that they don't want to and shouldn't do. Now, an example of that is metformin. There's a drug that forces glucose into cells that do not want it. Damaging, dangerous. Stupidity is what that is, actually, in the extreme. The solution to elevated blood glucose is to stop pouring glucose down your neck and other carbohydrates that form glucose.
Is metformin comparable to berberine? Because many people say, no, don't take metformin, but berberine, that's natural. Mm-hmm. And so... But it does the same thing, though, doesn't it?
Anything that countermands or counteracts what's basically the Randall cycle activity, i.e. locking those cells doors from the inside to protect themselves, anything that countermands that is a bad idea. Your blood glucose is too high because you have consumed too much of things that can become glucose metabolically. Mostly it's carbohydrates and sugars. It can be too much protein in some cases. Mostly, though, it's carbohydrate that is the cause. That is the root etiology of the disease process. That is what needs fixing. What you eat and how much of it.
We actually had a question about protein.
Mm.
Can't find it right now. I'm going to ask you the next question. Mm-hmm. One question was, ask him about fiber. He knows.
Yeah. Okay. The exact requirement for fiber in the human diet is not 1 single gram ever. None. There you go.
It's 0.
The whole idea that you need fiber in your diet is a fallacy. It's a falsehood. It's a fantasy. It's a theology. It's a bill of goods pushed by some people with a barrow to push. There is no science to underpin that at all. You do not need fiber in your diet.
I did talk to a gut microbiome scientist in London, and she said, no, you need fiber. And she went on the carnivore. I know. She went on the carnivore diet for a number of months and said it obliterated her gut microbiome. And she's a scientist, so she can measure it. I don't even know what she means by that because it will be changed, obviously, but it's not gone.
So did she go carnivore overnight? Change her diet markedly from what it was to this carnivore thing that she was doing for a short period of time? That's not science.
Not sure.
And that's not the sort of thing a scientist would do. That's just nonsense. This sounds like a silly little girl playing in the laboratory. This doesn't sound like a scientist.
She said was that she needs the fiber because then fiber creates bulk, and the bulk then it touches on receptors in the intestines, which then make the intestines move. And without the bulk, there's no movement. And I said,
rubbish.
Well, I hardly eat fiber and I go fine.
Yeah, that is absolute nonsense. Okay, this is not a scientist you're talking about. This is a silly little girl playing with some test tubes. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, I came to the same conclusion basically.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask her that question. I really wanted to nail her on that question, like how can I go without fiber? And she just avoided me. So
there you go. Well, I've been doing this well over 10 years. Hardly any fiber goes in. I have no problems of that nature. I can point you to some people that have been doing this for multiple decades, up to 67 years.
That lady in Canada.
Such rubbish. You do not need fiber in your diet. Not at all.
I found the question about the protein. I've read different things about if eating too much protein, it turns into glucose. The liver does its thing. So how much protein is too much protein in the context of having stage 3 kidney disease? This is with eating a diet between 20 to 25 total grams of carbs and high fat.
Okay, so stage 3 kidney disease is a special population. That's not a general population. You can't make general statements about it. There will be needs for that person's requirements that need to be looked after. That's a one-on-one thing. For the general public without stage 3 kidney disease, a good rule of thumb is somewhere around about 2 grams of protein per kilo of ideal body mass per day, preferably in one meal. Somewhere in there. N equals 1, you'll dial it in exactly for yourself. But that's about where it's at.
There's another thing I hear people say a lot, and I don't believe it, because I often also eat only one meal a day. They say you can only absorb 30 grams of protein per meal.
Rubbish.
But it takes time to digest. It's not like you drink it and it's through. It's...
There are people. Look, there are people on the interweb saying all sorts of things. We know this. You can only absorb 30 grams. No, that's rubbish. There is no science to underpin that claim. Absolute nonsense. It amazes me that there are so many people saying so many things that are so ridiculous, erroneous, wrong, nonsensical, with such confidence. It's crazy.
Oh, yeah. They are. I could imagine that if you drank a protein shake, because that's so fine, maybe then. But that's kind of like a bolus of protein. But if you eat meat, unlikely, I guess. So the next question is someone who says, I lost weight. So in the beginning, he lost weight really fast. And he has lost over 100 pounds. And now he's stuck at 285. And he doesn't know how to get unstuck. And in that context, I just wrote a blog about calorie restriction and caloric deficit. So he obviously was in a caloric deficit because he lost, in hindsight. But now he isn't because he's not losing. It doesn't matter how much he restricts his calories. He's not going to be in a caloric deficit. Am I getting that right?
Let's sort this out. The calorie, as a measurement of anything, has absolutely nothing whatever to do with human metabolism or your weight. Nothing at all. Either in foresight or in hindsight. Calories are a measurement of heat energy, which is a form of kinetic energy, and it is made manifest by photons, which are massless. You cannot affect your weight with calories, either up or down, and it doesn't matter how many of them you're talking about. Calories are photons, which cause the movement of particles, i.e. heat. That's what they are. They're nothing else. That's what they're explicitly defined as. That's how they're measured. There is mathematical conversions between that form of energy and other forms of energy, like the chemical energy found in the bonds of food-related articles. However, that doesn't mean you have the equipment to make the transition. At the end of the day, I cannot go into a shop in Canada and buy a bottle of water using a $10 New Zealand note, because that doesn't work in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, there's a mathematical conversion between New Zealand dollars and Canadian dollars, absolutely, but that's of no value to the shopkeeper. None at all. And the same is true of calories. Calories have nothing to do with human metabolism, nothing at all. So no, he's not in a deficit.
So not even in hindsight, because that's what I genuinely believed until now.
No. No, the calorie is a completely inappropriate measurement of the form of energy that food provides. It's a completely different currency. It's completely useless. And in fact,
I think eating calories and burning calories is kind of like a figure of speech that got away with us.
Sure. Because you can do neither. Neither is possible. You cannot eat calories.
Right.
They cannot be brought to rest because they're photons. Photons cannot be brought to rest. You can't eat those. Neither can you burn them because they don't burn.
Right.
It's just nonsense.
So on X, formerly known as Twitter, I had this guy that told me, obviously, calories matter, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, when my son was diagnosed with type 1, before he was diagnosed, he ate like his life depended on it. But if I had to guess, he probably ate 5,000 calories a day, and he still wasted away. He lost weight so quickly. I didn't see it, oddly, because from day to day you wouldn't see it, but he was thin. He was so thin when he was diagnosed. And I said, like, how do you explain that? And he said the 5,000 calories that his metabolism sped up.
It's just nonsense. It's just rubbish. It doesn't work. It never has worked. It never will work. It is the most inaccurate way of estimating the energy provided to a person via food, or their use of that energy for biological process and for physical work. It's just nonsense, and it needs to stop. There you go.
Do you think, without any other measurement that we have, we should measure mass, but there's no mass on the nutrition labels, right?
If you go and have a look at the wall of any cave where you'll find cave paintings from ancient humans, you won't see any of them standing around with calculators. Or talking about how much mass of food they'd eaten at all. At the end of the day, your body has inborn messages that your brain gives you. Oh, I'm hungry now. I'm going to eat food. Food meaning the muscle meat and associated fat of large ruminant animals. Period.
But that's messed up with people.
Right. You eat carbohydrates, you won't get appropriate signaling, and that's why people tend to overeat. Carbohydrates, plant material, all those kind of toxic nonsense. You just need to eat the muscle meat and associated flesh, fat of those large ruminant animals. And you stop eating when you're satisfied.
So you think on the line diet, could I be under eating fat? Because I'm not adding fat. I'm using beef tallow to fry. But other than that, I'm just eating whatever I grab from the freezer. I have like a half cow in the freezer.
Your body will give you quite good signaling on what it needs by virtue of your appetites. And if you're craving fat, it's because you need a bit more. If you're not, you're okay at the moment.
So I'm on day one. I kind of feel like if I had a stick of butter, I would actually bite into it right now. So I'm
okay.
I need a little more fat.
All right. It also depends on what your goals are and whether or not you're trying to change your current body composition to something different. In which case, then the goals change again.
Yeah. So I went from stage 3 obese, I think now they call it differently, to now just above, below obese. So just in the overweight range. I want to go lower. I definitely. Absolutely. Okay. All right. So the next question, is it true that in type 2 diabetes, the beta cells do not burn out like many healthcare providers assert?
It's case by case as to what's happening in any given individual person's beta cells. What we do know for sure is that it is entirely possible to reverse the set of circumstances that have led to that disease process by doing 5 things, starting with the carnivore diet, and then work your way down that list. Find one of those videos on my channel. There's about 4 or 5 of them where I outline these 5 factors that a person should do.
Yeah. I mean, the reversing type 2 diabetes that I experienced myself, I would not have believed it, because all my doctors said, no, it's chronic progressive. And it sure is if we follow that advice.
If you follow their advice, and if you follow a standard diet and do the things that you did that got you in that position in the first place, then sure, it will be progressive. But to get a different outcome, you have to change your behavior and do something different. That's where most people fall down, because they're not prepared to change their behavior and do something different.
Yeah, I see a lot that people are afraid of change. They don't want to change because they're in pain where they are at, like I was. But changing could be even, you don't know what to expect. You don't know what's going to happen, and it could be worse. And then they avoid it.
Yeah.
And then there are those that say cake is life. And I had that exchange on LinkedIn where I'm a sugar addict. I don't know how you stand on addiction to sugar, but I did stupid things to get my sugar fix, like breaking 2 teeth, for example. And I told her, well, not her. I said, like, I'm going to eat like this now, and then let's see, maybe in the new year I'm going to change things up. And she said, well, for Christmas you got to have a pie though, or a cake. And I said, no, I can't. I'm a sugar addict. If I eat a cake, I can't control those cravings. And she said, well, a life without cake is pretty grim and joyless, and people don't get it.
I would suggest that if your only source of joy in your life is a cake, I think you should really rethink your life.
Yeah.
I really do.
I mean, my joy comes from being able to go out and have fun, not from eating a cake. And they have their priorities completely messed up.
That's it. Because the other thing about eating a cake is, let's say it takes a minute or less to eat the cake. You have a minute or less of a few seconds of pleasure when you swallow that nonsense. And that's done with now. But now you've got to pay the price for that ongoingly.
Yeah.
It's just daft. It doesn't make any sense at all.
There's a German saying, it's a second in the mouth and then a lifetime on the hips.
Sure.
Something like that.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Someone wanted to know what proof exists to claim we are not omnivores. Also, why are so many people making performance gains in the gym on plant-based diets? What does it mean for carnivore? I haven't dove into those studies yet. He basically wants to know, is there any proof?
What we know scientifically is very little. What we can prove scientifically about human health as it relates to human nutrition is almost nothing. The science does not exist. What we have is a ring-fenced area of ideology, propaganda, bought and paid for nonsense. We don't have science to tell us what the answers are here. If you look outside of that, we do have science that tells us, how did humans evolve? What did we actually eat? What were human beings eating? This isn't a question. This isn't something we have to reconstruct or guess at. We have the science that gives us the answer. It's the nitrogen isotopes found in the long bones of skeletal human remains found anywhere around the planet, anywhere more than 11,000 years old, up to 100 and whatever. They all say the same story. They all tell us what human beings did eat, which tells us which genes were selected for and which ones were selected against via Darwinian evolution, which I am not going to refer to as a theory because it's not. It's a fact.
We ate prey and we ate predators.
Pretty much we ate meat and fat.
Everything we could catch.
And there was very little of anything else. And that which was plant material was rooty, fibrous, non-modern fruit and vegetable-like things whatsoever. So we know what is ideal genetically, anthropologically, historically, what we've done. Any deviation from ideal may or may not cause any given individual an issue. At large, we know that individuals do have issues with eating inappropriate diets. How do we know? Because we look at public health statistics and we go, shit, there's the answer. Right, we need to not do that. Okay, a balanced diet containing lots of healthy whole grains and fiber and all of that. No, absolute nonsense, rubbish. That's not what a human being should be taking in at all.
One of my pet peeves.
Why are there people that are doing well on the wrong kind of diet? Well, there are people that smoke 20 a day and drink heavily and live until they're 100. What's your point? We're talking about what's ideal. At large, broadly.
I also think that people who are in the gym and say, I'm eating a vegan diet and look at my gains, that's a snapshot.
But they're also taking
I want
gear.
to see them like 7 years later, if they're still healthy and still having their gains.
Anybody who has any muscle mass to speak of whatsoever who claims to be a vegan is on the gear, period.
What does it mean on the gear?
Steroids.
Oh, okay.
They are not doing it naturally. It's not possible. They are lying to you. It's a physiological fact.
They're lacking the proteins that they need to build the muscle.
Exactly. I mean, a vegan cannot get sufficient good quality protein to build muscle mass. They are also destitute in a number of different nutrients required absolutely by human beings. They are lying to you.
Okay.
Easy. And they won't last either.
No. I'd actually tried vegetarian. My dad told me, like, when I developed the autoimmune issues, just try it just for me. And I did, and it was horrible. I didn't feel any better. Not even shortly for not eating junk anymore, but I didn't feel better. So the other question is, this is a little more complicated, and I don't know if you can answer that or not. This member says, I'm using Freestyle Libre CGM for a month now. My BG pattern confuses me no matter what I tried. Fasting, eat early in the morning, butter in the coffee. My BG rises up to 100 points between waking up at 6 a.m. and noon. So it's not really the dawn phenomenon because it's so long after lunch. Until 5, it drops to 100 to 100, 80 to 100, which is around 5-ish. After dinner, it starts going up, and I end up in the morning with 220 to 250 range. And that's probably around about 11, 12. So
that question reads like a request for a consultancy style
that's very...
If that person wants to discuss that with me over an hour or so to get the full history so that I can make some sensible statements about what's likely to be going on for that person, then they should consult with me.
All right. I will give her that information. I'm just going to add on. She says she takes, I think it was a she, 20 grams glipizide before lunch and dinner and metformin. And then someone else asked, why are they still prescribing glipizide when it's shown to increase all-cause mortality?
Because it hasn't been shown to do anything of the sort. It's an associative study.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, I love those.
There are no studies that can inform us on mortality, cause and effect available in human beings. That would be unethical. We cannot do that kind of work.
And sometimes, I get into discussions on Twitter a lot.
Well, I see that.
And then they say, those observational studies, you can't just dismiss them because there are so many, and there's so many people and so many human life, blah, blah, blah. And then also, what do you say about the smoking study? And then I told them, because I heard it from you, yes, even that one can't inform on risk because it's an association. Doesn't mean for me that I wouldn't.
At large, with the general public, is you have a group of people made up of various different levels of intelligence, mostly below yours and mine, unfortunately, without the ability to critically put together a reasonable, sensible, scientifically valid point or argument. These discussions on social media, for the most part, are an absolute waste of time and energy. They're an absolute vampire to even get involved. At the end, well, you can tell me in a minute, and I'll tell you why I'm doing it a little bit myself in a different guise as well.
I see you, yeah. I see you too.
At the end of the day, you are not going to get through to these people. They are as dumb as a box of rocks. They are as stupid as a box of spanners. I do it a bit. Well, a friend of mine does. It's not really me. He's his own man. He does his own thing there on that platform. And that's really just for baiting big name folks into possibly showing up to have a debate with yours truly. And most of them, when they find out who they've been talking to, refusing to do so, funnily enough. And or a bit of stress relief and amusement for myself, really, at the end of the day. But anyone who thinks they're going to go online and get into arguments with people on Twitter about aspects of human health and human nutrition, you're wasting your time and energy. The best thing we could all do is block these idiots. Block, so they have no audience. Then they go away. Because there's nobody listening. Nobody cares what their ignorant, stupid opinion is.
Yeah, some of them I block, some of them I mute. But the reason why I do these interactions is it helps me better refine my argument. And there are people reading along. So I'm kind of like not targeting, I couldn't say that, but I'm hoping for other people to chime in or to read along and learn something from that. Because I'm not saying you're stupid, but I'm saying you said this and this doesn't make sense. And the other person then knows, oh yeah, he's stupid. So that's my reasoning.
Yeah, my friend
it's fun.
that does the social media thing, my little yellow furry friend, he tends to just call it like he sees it. He's not about being at all diplomatic remotely.
No, not at all. Yeah. Especially not with, actually I liked him, the salt fix guy.
Whatever. You can't be. The problem with that guy is he thinks that because he knows a little bit about something, that he knows everything about everything. And he's got an ego problem.
A lot of people have that.
Yep, sure.
On X, I think.
Sure. Yeah.
So that were those two questions in one. And thyroid and autoimmune is basically the same thing. So this video that you have with the 5 things to do, that would apply for thyroid too?
I think it would be very helpful, yes. Especially given the fact that number 2 is a nutraceutical supplement product, which has the capacity, the likelihood to have an impact on almost any condition you can name.
You mean this cerule?
I do.
I actually would like to know more about that. And this is, I'm trying many things. I'm trying to get better sleep. I'm trying to get less stress, which wasn't possible in the last 4 months because I was in Germany in a high stress environment, and I paid for that. I'm trying to make me time things. I'm trying to enjoy myself. All these. I also. I'm not sure. Are you familiar with PEMF? So this is something I'm trying also. But exercise, but that's basically it. What's the advantage of that supplement, cerule?
Right. So our flagship product is called Stem Enhance Ultra. It is a product which causes your bone marrow to release your adult stem cells into your bloodstream from storage. Those adult stem cells, having been released, float around in your blood, find tissues in your body that are in need of renewal or repair, bind to those tissues and replace those cells with brand new ones. Awesome.
Would that, for example, mean that if I eat a protocol that would stop my autoimmune reaction in the thyroid, could that mean that it could help the thyroid recover?
We are not allowed to make any therapeutic claim about Cerule products whatsoever. It's an FDA rule. They won't let us. We are only allowed to say...
PEMF the same. They're not allowed to say anything.
We are only allowed to say that this product does exactly what it says it does. And that is it releases the adult stem cells, which then do magics of their own accord. Your body decides the priority of how the stem cells are used. And so that's what happens. So yes, it has the absolute capacity to renew and restore any tissue in your body which is dysfunctional or worn down or whatever. Whether it will or not, we can't say. Does it have the capability to do that? Yes, good. The second product we have is an anti-inflammatory, and then we have a blood flow optimizer. I suggest all three of those in a wellness pack, which is a monthly repeating order. You get a price break for doing that, and you won't pay for shipping anymore either. So that's the best way of doing it if you want to pay for it. If you're the sort of person who understands the value of the 18 or so % discount you'll get that way, you might be the sort of person who can appreciate a further, well, the rest up to 100% discount so that you get it for free. If you're the sort of person who would rather have your product for free than to pay for it, all you need to do is let me know behind the scenes sometime. We have a program for that too.
I'm guessing you're getting yours for free.
I'm getting mine for free, yes, absolutely. And I would like everybody I know to do the same. I don't want you paying for your Cerule products. It's ridiculous. Why would you?
Yeah. Okay.
So just ask me how, basically.
I just want to say one thing. Before we recorded, we talked about a few things, but we didn't talk about me mentioning Cerule. But it's actually one thing I wanted to know about because I do struggle with inflammatory arthritis, which I don't seem to be able to get under control. So, yeah.
I would warmly recommend that you give it a 6-month trial at the highest dose you can afford.
As a scientist, would you say, I mean, the diet got to be carnivore or lion diet or just very, very few, I don't know, a few berries or such. Yeah. But so you have the diet, you have the sleep, but you would try to just single out one thing to see what the effect is, right? So I would do either PEMF or Cerule or both. I would
go Cerule every day of the week and twice on Sundays. My list of 5 things that I think a person should do are based on results.
Yeah.
I've not played around with any of this other stuff. There are always people saying, what about this? What about that? What about the other thing? And I always say, absolutely fine. They're probably below number 5 on the priority list. Those top 5 are there because they've earned their spot there. And Cerule is the only product I promote at all on my channel for any kind of return. I've been asked to promote all sorts of things, and I've said no every time, except this once. That's how good it is.
I get these things like once a week, and I'm not even that important. I have 16 or 17,000 followers on Twitter, and I get all these. Okay, but yeah.
Yeah,
I'm just going to see here if there.
Yeah, no, I would very, very warmly suggest that a course of Cerule is very, very likely to have an impact. You need to take enough of the stuff for long enough, and that your mileage may vary. I generally say to people 6 months is a good time frame by which you'll know that the stuff is valuable, and then you're a lifelong customer from that point. So I never have to sell it to you again.
That's right.
That's fantastic.
And I mean, you look amazing, and that's not me making a pass on you, but we are the same age, so I know how. But I have had like a life of not good nutrition and trauma and all that. So that changes people.
Yeah, for real.
I'm through with my questions. The only thing I might want to dig a little deeper into is this renal cycle, and I don't want to get the entire cycle explained, but basically, does it mean that you shouldn't be eating fat and sugar at the same time?
It means that your diet should be rich in one of those and extremely poor to zero in the other, ongoingly.
Does it mean that you could, for example, on one of those low-carb conferences, there was a guy talking about the rice diet and an extremely low-fat, but a rice diet. And I can't see how this can work long-term because
anyone that wants to go and eat a rice diet can fill their boots up. They are one of those people with an intelligence quotient less than about 100. Because to believe that's going to work for you long-term and be healthful and provide you with everything you need nutritionally. Well, look, if you believe that, I've got some waterfront property for you in Montana.
Oh, do you?
Okay, no. When I say your diet should be rich in one of fat and carbohydrates and extremely poor to zero in the other, before you make a decision about which diet you're going to approach, you need to work out which one of those two diets is likely to lead you to health, repleteness of nutrition, and be in a good situation, and which one is likely to be absolutely disastrous. And it's the low-fat diet that's going to be disastrous. So stay the hell away from it. You've only got one option. That's how we evolved. That's how our genes are selected for. That's a slam dunk. We're done here. Very good. So eat a high-fat, high-protein, animal-based diet.
Video?
Oh, God, whatever. Just nonsense.
And that doctor head of nutrition did it, and he improved all his health markers, apparently.
Well, who's interested in markers? I'm interested in health outcomes.
Yeah, that makes sense. My idea was just if it improves, long term, it's not sustainable, so it cannot be healthy. And that's probably the outcome, yes. If you do it long term, you will have deficiencies that are not compatible with life. And yeah.
Yep. So there it is. Eat an appropriate species-specific diet. Take cereal products. Ground yourself electrically for as much of the time as is possible. Block blue light from your eyes after dark and get half an hour to 45 minutes of high-intensity burst and repeat or resistance-style training in a weekly basis. There you go. There's the 5.
Oh, one more. High-intensity training when you have inflammation in your joints. How does that work?
Listen to your body.
Should you just go... Yeah, that's right now not working for me. That's a problem.
Listen to your body. It knows. There's a difference between, this is a little bit and no, don't do that.
Yeah, there's a pain and then there's an ow pain and I don't want that.
Yeah.
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 That makes sense.
Cool bananas. All right.
Awesome.
Pleasure as usual. I have to race off to my next thing. It's one of those days where I have, one thing straight after the other all day. I'm very popular, to hear.
You are.
Yeah. Oh dear.
But you know your stuff, and that's your appeal. You just whether it's on a level where I'm talking to you, which isn't very scientific, or on a level where you talk to the Salt Fix guy, you know your stuff. So
cool. Appreciate that. Good stuff. All right. So the rest of you, you know what to do. Like, subscribe. Make sure you go and subscribe to all Roxana's stuff. Where do they find you on social media?
So it's usually my name, Roxana Zoetebeer, and that's on Twitter, on X, on Facebook. There you'll find my link tree, and then you find my YouTube channel. I think I have my name in a YouTube channel too. Yeah.
Very good. Okay, cool. See you then. Ciao for now.
Awesome.